Well, good Sunday afternoon, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Chopu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know it is not working, and we want it to work. So, you know I love the music. I love the music. I love actually sitting out here. Today, it's actually really nice out. It's kind of cloudy, a little bit of rain, but it's not real hot. Although the cicadas are on the move, we're going to have to see what this is like in about another 2 weeks when they invade. We may have to be on the inside for a bit. But, you know, if there's any way, we will do it. So let me go ahead and kill the music here. Here we are with another Sunday that we do not have football, but it's one Sunday closer to the NFL season. And today is the last day of our rookies minicamp, where they're getting a crash course in what is the Dallas Cowboys. And here's what's interesting with the 31 rookies that we have that all have an opportunity to make the most of hopefully a long NFL career. Most of these guys just want a chance and an opportunity to get out there and show what they've got. And sometimes you get guys that out of nowhere become really, really good players, become contributors on your team. Heck, maybe a guy who ends up taking you to a Super Bowl. Now, we haven't had any of those guys in the Dallas Cowboys in quite a while that have taken us to a Super Bowl, but maybe one of these prospects could be. And another thing, as I was always told that veteran players don't like the draft much because that means that's the team's new love. That means a young guy who's gunning for your job and your income. Somebody who's literally trying to get you into the unemployment line. And so you don't like to see the writing on the wall. If you're ownership, Stephen Jones has gone on board saying it would be a stretch to have all 11 of these guys that we drafted make the roster, but it would be great if they did. And they would be great if they did, because then you've got them slotted for the next 4 to 5 years on a pay scale that is a lot less than the veterans. Ultimately, Stephen Jones would love that. And when we have situations like Michael Gallup, we've had so many people that have been trying to get rid of Michael Gallup. Trade Michael Gallup so we can fix the defense. And I've been trying to tell people, you're not fixing the defense with trading a wide receiver. Not when there were so many wide receivers that were free agents that really weren't getting big paydays and things like that. You know, you're not getting value that you think. I know a lot of you play fantasy football and you look at it and say, you know, everybody's tradable because I'm going to get somebody else and all. But real life football doesn't work that way. But as the Cowboys sit here, you know, you've got, of course, CeeDee Lamb, who is a young phenom, who you expect to have big things and take another big step. You, of course, have Amari Cooper, who you technically have him locked up for that deal that's $100 million for 5 years. But really, after this season, you can walk away from that one if it ends up being that Amari Cooper has injuries and so on, or you deem him just too expensive to keep. They can get out of the contract. And then there's Michael Gallup, who is in a contract year. So the question is do you want to pay him? Another question would be if you let go of Amari Cooper, which is what a lot of people will say, and you hold on to Michael Gallup because he's younger, is Michael Gallup a number one wide receiver? That's an even bigger question, because if you're only looking to say we're going to save some money, but you take a step back, and I'll give you an example. Alvin Harper looked great with Michael Irvin as the number one. But when Alvin Harper went to Tampa Bay and to Washington and had to be the number one, not quite so much. It really was not the same guy. Everybody looked and said, what happened? He's stealing money. And that's one of those questions you have to say, does Michael Gallup benefit from the other people around him? In fact, having Dak Prescott. Well, a guy who might be there that the Cowboys and Stephen Jones may look at and say, maybe this could be a guy that could replace Michael Gallup, is Simi Fehoko. I hope I said that right, because I'm a name butcher. Fifth round pick out of Stanford, 6'4", 6'4", pretty good size, actually really good size, 222 pounds, 31 5/8 inch arm span, arm length, and an amazing 10 1/4. That's hands about the size of Michael Irvin's. That's actually really, really good size. And when you start going through the numbers, let's look at some of the numbers here. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of experience here because what he's got is 62 receptions, 1,146 yards. But what stands out to you is this right here. 18.5 yards per reception. Now, you talk about a big body, 6'4", guy's pretty fast. He can jump, and he's average, look at this, 23.6 yards per reception in 2019. That's unbelievable. So, this is where, the Cowboys may have gotten a diamond in the rough that might not be a bad player. Now here's another interesting take for you. Because a lot of you will say, well, Michael Gallup, and I'm not trying – listen, what a lot of you will try and do is you'll try and say, you're just kind of, throwing shade on this guy or you just don't like that. No. Stop. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to get you to look at the full picture. I want you to look at all sides of every equation, and then you can make your own decision on what the case may be. Michael Gallup is a really good receiver, For a guy who was drafted in the 3rd round to play as well as he's played, he's one of the top receivers in his draft class. Not disputing that whatsoever. But now, here's an interesting take to go along with this, though. I want you to understand sometimes players benefit from the coaches that they have around them. You could look at a guy like, say, Steve Young, who was in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay looked and said, this dog don't hunt. We can get rid of him. He goes to San Francisco and becomes a Hall of Famer. Clearly, what was going on in Tampa Bay was not the same as what was going on in San Francisco. Clearly, if he had stayed in Tampa Bay, he wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. So you can say being with that organization made him a better player. Then there's having other players around you that will make you a better player. Again, we could look at Alvin Harper. Alvin Harper having, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, having Emmitt Smith, and, of course, Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek. Just not enough guys to cover everybody. It made his job a little easier. You go to Tampa Bay, where now you're the guy and you don't have all those other people around you who are getting some of the attention, then you can get stopped. So this is one of those things is Michael Gallup great because Michael Gallup is great, but is it somewhat that he's got also great players around him? And I can look at this from the point of saying Dak Prescott. And I know the Dak Prescott haters out here are going, oh, here we go. It's only because of Dak. No, I just want to let's compare apples to apples. How about we do that? Let's just look, because we actually have a couple of situations where we can compare receivers with other quarterbacks in other organizations. So let's go up here. Let's take a look at Amari Cooper stats, okay? I hope you guys can see these, and hopefully it's not too whited out because it is a white background here. All right. Amari Cooper had his best year yardage-wise his rookie year in Oakland, 14.9 yards per completion. Dropped down to 13.9, 14.2, 13.4, and his last year in Oakland, he was down to 12.7. He immediately, during the season, gets traded to the Cowboys, and that same year, it bumps up by a yard per completion. Interesting. The next year, he's at 15.1, the highest of his career. He had an offseason to work with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. Best year he had, 14.9, but went downhill precipitously. Now, Dak Prescott goes out, it drops down to 12.1. Okay. Let's look at another one, because I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, okay, well, he had Derek Carr throw it to him. He was ass, so what do you expect, okay? Then he had, had Double G, and he had Andy Dalton, so of course it's going to go down. Okay, all right. How about we look at this one? How about we take Randall Cobb? Randall Cobb, his rookie year, boom, 15.1 yards with the bad man thrown to him, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers.
What the hell's going on out here?
The next year dropped to 11.9, got back up to 14, 14.1, 2015, 10.5, 10.2, and 2017, 9.9, 2018, 10.1. And it was at that point they said the dog don't hunt no more. It's time for him to go. If you can't get more than 10 yards per completion with Aaron Rodgers, something wrong with you. Here's what's amazing. He goes to Dallas in 2019 and goes from 10.1, 5 yards more per completion with the Cowboys. What? Yeah. Aaron Rodgers throwing to him, boom, goes to Dallas. Highest of his career, 15.1. Okay. You're going to say, oh, well, it's because they had, Amari Cooper over there and everything else and Michael Gallup, so that don't matter. Dak's still ass and all that. Okay, all right, fine. He goes to Houston and has Deshaun Watson, a guy who a lot of y'all will say you'd take over Dak. And then he drops back into the Aaron Rodgers zone, 11.6. Now, I'm not saying that that's all because of Dak. I'm saying that that's because of the system that they're running with Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett that is about the pass. I mean, they've really gotten the pass down. We were passing for what would have been 1,000 yards more had Dak stayed upright and continued on the same pace than anybody has ever thrown in the NFL. Clearly, they are pass happy, and that benefits them. So, if that's the case, if you look at the numbers, and it seems like when they come to Dallas, they rise. When they leave Dallas, they drop. Is that the case for Michael Gallup too? And if that's the case, that Michael Gallup is benefiting from the players around him, is Simi possibly a beneficiary of that as well? And maybe he's able to step in the place of Michael Gallup after this year. I'm not saying I want to get rid of Michael Gallup. Don't send me your hate mail. But you got to admit, the boy's got wheels. And what you always want to do in the NFL, in the NFL is player acquisition is a 365-day-a-year job. And you're always looking for somebody that's going to make you better. And in Stephen Jones's case, somebody who's cheaper. And with that, you've got to look at a guy like Simi. And Simi, more than likely, will end up making the roster as first a special teams guy. That's what it'll be. I'm not going to say that, Michael Gallup has something to worry about this year. He doesn't. But somebody like a Cedric Wilson may have that. So we'll see where this goes and if he makes the roster, and if he does, if this is the possible guy that might be coming for Michael Gallup's job. I mean, 23.6 yards per completion one season. That's just insane. Look at it. In traffic. Good hands. Good big hands. 6'4", 220 pounds. Physical. Very physical. I have to look at this and say, you know what? He might just be a sleeper for the Dallas Cowboys. Just might be. Man. Got to love these highlights. But you know how it is. I'm going to let the highlights continue to run.